the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a man clings to life on day 76 of an unimaginable ordeal. His body ravaged, his mind fracturing under the weight of isolation, Steven Callahan stares at the endless horizon with one thought consuming him: I should be dead. But against all odds, against every prediction of survival experts, he lived. To understand how one man defeated the ocean's fury, we must travel back 76 days to where this impossible journey began. This is the story of the longest solo survival at sea ever recorded, a tale that rewrote the limits of human endurance. It began on January 29, 1982. Steven Callahan, an experienced sailor and boat designer, set sail from the Canary Islands aboard his pride and joy, Napoleon Solo, a 21-foot sloop bound for the Caribbean. What started as a dream voyage across the Atlantic became a nightmare within days. 6 days into the journey, as Steven slept below deck, a violent Atlantic storm descended without warning. Gale-force winds whipped the ocean into a frenzy. Waves 20 feet high crashed over the small vessel, tossing it like a toy. Then came the catastrophic moment. A collision, likely with a whale breaching in the storm, tore through the hull. Water poured into the cabin. Napoleon Solo was sinking, and Steven had mere minutes to react. Grabbing what supplies he could, he inflated his 6-foot emergency life raft and abandoned ship. Within moments, Napoleon Solo vanished beneath the waves, taking with it Steven's charts, radio, and any hope of rescue. Day 1 dawned with the harsh reality of complete isolation. Steven took stock of his meager supplies: 3 pounds of canned food, 8 pints of water, a spear gun with 5 spears, flares, and a small solar still to extract drinking water from the sea. That was all that stood between him and death. The calculations were grim. At best, he had enough food for 3 days, maybe a week if he rationed carefully. He was adrift 1,800 miles from the nearest land, far beyond any shipping lanes. The odds of rescue were virtually zero. First attempts at fishing with the spear gun ended in failure. Fish darted away before he could strike. Hunger gnawed at him from the very beginning. Water became the more immediate crisis. The solar still, meant to produce a pint per day, yielded only a few precious drops. Severe dehydration set in within 48 hours. By day 7, the brutal routine had formed: bailing water from the raft, attempting to catch fish, rationing drops of water like liquid gold, fighting off despair. The first week's hell tested his resolve like nothing he'd ever experienced. But this, he would learn, was only the beginning. Day 10 marked the beginning of his body's systematic breakdown. The relentless sun turned his skin bright red, then blistered it raw. Every movement brought agony as burned skin cracked and peeled away. The salt water made it worse, stinging like acid with each wave that splashed over the raft. Weight began melting off his frame at an alarming rate. By day 20, his athletic build had withered. Ribs became visible beneath his tattered shirt, his face hollowed, cheekbones sharp beneath weathered skin. Then, the hallucinations began. On day 30, exhausted and delirious from starvation, Steven heard voices calling from the water. He saw ships on the horizon that vanished when he tried to signal them. His mind, starved of stimulation, began creating its own reality. But desperation breeds innovation. After countless failed attempts, Steven modified his technique and finally speared his first dorado. The raw fish, consumed immediately, was the most precious meal of his life. It gave him days of strength, but the toll continued mounting. Severe malnutrition set in. Dehydration became chronic. His body was consuming itself to survive. By day 30, Steven Callahan was a shadow of the man who'd left the Canary Islands. Yet somehow, impossibly, he kept fighting. Day 30 to 45 became a mental war against surrender. The life raft, battered by constant waves, developed dangerous leaks. With only fishing line and a knife, Steven performed emergency repairs again and again. each fix more desperate than the last. One major breach would mean certain death. Sharks became constant companions, their dorsal fins slicing through the water around his tiny refuge. They bumped the raft's underside, testing it. One night, a shark attacked with terrifying aggression. Steven fought it off with his spear, the raft rocking violently, water pouring in. He survived by inches. In his darkest moments, thoughts of surrender whispered through his mind. It would be so easy to slip into the water, to let the ocean take him. But memories of home, of people he loved, of promises he'd made, fueled a defiance he didn't know he possessed. He would not give the ocean this victory. Day 45 to 60 marked the absolute abyss. Steven's body had reached a critical state. Extreme emaciation made every movement exhausting. His muscles had atrophied. His immune system was failing. Medically speaking, he was approaching the point of no return. Then disaster struck again. The solar still, his only source of fresh water, broke beyond repair. Thirst became torture. His lips cracked and bled. His tongue swelled. Every breath felt like sandpaper. He was dying of thirst, surrounded by an ocean of undrinkable water. On day 55, hope appeared on the horizon. A cargo ship, close enough that Steven could see crew members on deck. He fired his last emergency flare, screaming and waving with what little strength remained. The ship sailed past. They never saw him. The crushing disappointment nearly broke him completely. Steven collapsed in the raft, weeping with exhaustion and despair. The hallucinations intensified. He argued with phantom people. Reality and delusion blurred together. He was losing his grip on sanity itself. By day 70, barely conscious most of the time, Steven existed in a state between life and death.
This is breaking me.
Day 76 arrived with a dawn Steven barely registered. He lay in the raft, too weak to move, awareness drifting in and out. His body had consumed every reserve. This was, by all logic, his final day. Then, through the haze of delirium, he heard an engine. At first, he thought it was another hallucination, but the sound grew louder, closer, real. A fishing boat appeared, small but solid, crewed by 3 fishermen from Guadeloupe. They had spotted the orange raft by pure chance, 1 in a million odds in the vast Atlantic. As they pulled alongside, the fishermen stared in shock at the skeletal figure before them. Steven tried to speak, but could barely whisper. Gentle hands lifted him from the raft that had been his entire world for 76 days. He wept, unable to believe rescue was real. The fishermen wrapped him in blankets, gave him water in tiny, careful sips, and radioed for emergency medical evacuation. A Coast Guard helicopter arrived within the hour. Steven, strapped to a stretcher, was winched up from the fishing boat. As he rose into the sky, he looked down one last time at the life raft below. That 6-foot circle of rubber that had somehow kept him alive across 1,800 miles of open ocean. Against every conceivable odd, Steven Callahan had survived. The helicopter rushed Steven to a hospital in Guadeloupe. Medical staff scrambled to stabilize him. He had lost a third of his body weight, dropping from 140 pounds to barely 100. Severe dehydration, acute malnutrition, multiple organ systems on the verge of failure. The lead physician would later state, by all medical knowledge, this man should not have survived past day 50. Recovery began slowly, painfully. Weeks in hospital, relearning how to eat solid food, rebuilding muscle that had wasted away, physical therapy to regain strength. But harder than physical recovery was processing what he'd endured. 76 days alone with only his thoughts. It
The
had
data
changed
shows
him
your survival
forever.
rate was less than 1%.
Within months,
1%,
as strength
that's
returned,
incredible.
It's a
Steven
miracle,
began
medically
documenting his
impossible.
experience. The survival techniques he'd pioneered, the mental strategies that had kept him sane, the innovations that had saved his life. He wrote it all down, determined that others might learn from his ordeal. His book, Adrift, 76 Days Lost at Sea, became an international bestseller. But more importantly, it became required reading for survival training programs worldwide.
I can't believe you're here.
We're here. We're together. We were so scared.
I'm home.
You're alive. You're really here.
I knew you'd make it. Our families complete me.
Love one.
The life raft modifications Steven had improvised under desperate conditions were adopted by maritime safety organizations. His techniques saved other lives. Steven returned to boat design, but his relationship with the ocean had transformed. No longer adversaries, he understood it now with a respect bordering on reverence. He knew its power intimately, and he knew his own. Today, Steven Callahan's story stands as the longest authenticated solo survival at sea in modern history. 76 days, 1,800 miles drifted by wind and current. Rescued on the last day, his body could have possibly endured. His legacy teaches us that human resilience transcends what we believe possible, that the will to survive, when everything else fails, can carry us through the unimaginable. That surrender is a choice, and so is fighting. In the face of the abyss, surrounded by an ocean that should have claimed him, Steven Callahan's spirit would not break. His story reminds us, we are capable of far more than we know. Next time on Tales of the Impossible, the story of Jose Salvador Alvarenga, who survived 438 days adrift at sea, the longest survival journey ever recorded. Subscribe now, because these stories of human endurance will change how you see what's possible.